Hello and welcome. His education and work as a clinical psychologist seemed to take a completely different turn when he became the publisher of a hugely popular and unique comic book series. This week on One-on-One, meet the creator of the Middle Eastern superheroes, the 99, Dr. Naif al-Mutawa. From his earliest years, he was brought up between two cultures, that of his homeland Kuwait and the rich Arab environment, and the fast-paced, vibrant diversity of the United States. Naif al-Mutawa loved comics as a boy and developed a passion for storytelling, but like many, was pushed towards an academic career. He studied psychology in America, gaining a number of degrees, including a PhD, and later applied his skills as a doctor of clinical psychology to working with survivors of political torture and Kuwaiti prisoners of war. Through it all, however, he still thought about his burning desire to do something different and creative. From that, the 99 was born, a hugely successful comic book series focused on heroes displaying attributes that are revered in the Arab and Islamic world. Although not religious comics, the 99 developed characters that al-Mutawa hoped would serve as role models for children in a region that desperately needs something positive and uplifting. The comics went on to be a huge hit globally and won al-Mutawa a number of awards and recognition as a serious player in changing the often negative perception of the Arab world. In spite of being fully engaged in his passion, overseeing the growth of the 99, Naif al-Mutawa hasn't put aside his skills as a doctor and regularly teaches clinical psychology. But like many superheroes, he continues to lead a double life as founder of a new cultural wave for children across the globe. Naif, a real pleasure to have a chance to chat with you.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Riz.
You know, among the things you've done, of course, the one that's very visible around the world is the creation of the 99. What was the most challenging thing about that?
It had a lot of challenges. The initial challenge was when I had the idea, was I going to go forward with it? Because I had this fear that, you know, if I tried to do this and wasn't successful in raising the financing, then I'd be known as the crazy guy that tried. And so that weighed on me a lot. That was the first challenge. And then it's been, I mean, there've been a lot of challenges. There's still challenges today, but that was the very big one that I had to overcome because it was between me and myself.
And you were sitting in a London cab when the idea came,
yeah? Yeah. I was just going along, you know, from Edgware Road to Harrods, a pilgrimage that all Kuwaitis make at least once a year. And on the way, my sister turned to me and, you know, asked me, you know, have you thought about going back to writing? You said you'd go back to writing after school. And one thing led to another. I just kind of pushed her. I wasn't interested in thinking about writing. I had all these degrees, so I thought I'd just shut her up. So I said, you know, it's got to be something that has the potential of Pokemon. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for me. And that was me saying, shut up. And she, shut up. But what happened is that there was a vacuum in the cab now. Nobody was speaking. I look out the window. My mind started to wander. One thought led to another, and I got out at Harrods. The 99 was there. So maybe I shouldn't have told her to shut up.
Now, when it comes to the actual characters and the storyline and so on, it is based on Islamic heritage and values, but it's important to state that it's not just about Muslims, is it?
No, it's based on what I call an Islamic archetype. So very much like Superman and Batman are based on Judeo-Christian archetypes. You know, like the prophets, Superman gets his message from above, you know, in Krypton in that instance. And like the prophets, you know, he's an orphan or he has no parents. And like Moses, he's sent to earth in a pod, like, you know, and like Moses was sent on the Nile. And also beyond that, you hear the voice of Jor-El, Superman's father, speaking to earth, saying what? I have sent to you my only son. That's God in the Bible speaking about Jesus Christ. So, but there's no religion in Superman. And so what I've done is I've gone back to the Quran. I've pulled out religious archetypes that I use in my storylines. But if you're not a religious scholar, if you're not somebody who's really studied the Quran, you're not going to get the archetypes. And you don't have to. They're just good stories.
Now, as you run the Tashkil Media Group, which is growing, and congratulations on the success, how much time do you find to actually have input into it? I mean, actually taking a part, because you used to write and were involved in that.
Yeah. The irony is I started this whole thing to write, and I don't anymore. I'm very involved. That's the most serious part of my job, is because it's my name on there. And so it has to pass my litmus test. And if I can't defend it, I won't print it. And so, you know, I give direction, big picture. Like, for example, the writers for the animation series are all in Hollywood. They're the writers behind Ben 10 and the Batman animation, etc. And what I tell them, I said, you know, it's only when Jewish kids watch the series and think these characters are Jewish, and Christians think they're Christians, and Hindu think they're Hindu, and Muslims think they're Muslim, that I've achieved what I'm trying to achieve. So it's all big picture direction. And I let them create, and then I get involved in kind of editing. But I try not to limit, because that's the last thing you want to do with creative types.
Tell me about your early childhood, your early years growing up, and your earliest memories.
Always with a book, my memories. I remember I almost failed fourth grade and actually ended up changing schools because of it, because I wasn't interested in reading what they gave me to read. I wanted to read my own thing. Not much has changed, I think. I remember telling my parents when I was 9 or 10, around the same time period, that when I grew up I was going to be a writer. And they told me that's a great hobby. Just don't think about doing it as a job. I remember growing up going to a camp in New Hampshire from the age of 8 to 18, Camp Robin Hood up in the White Mountains. And I remember back then there was no internet in Kuwait, and obviously no internet anywhere, but there's no satellite television. And on a good day, you can get maybe Dubai or Iraq TV on your TV set. But I remember the kids used to make me point up to the sky saying, "Boss, boss, the plane, the plane." And you can tell from my height and weight what I must have looked like when I was 8. I was like a box. I didn't realize this was like a reference from Fantasy Island until years later when it finally showed up on Kuwaiti TV. And I'm like, wait a minute.
They're insulting you.
Well, I hope not, but yeah. But definitely, yeah. I definitely would have been insulted if I'd known then.
And of course, it was Camp Robin Hood where you picked up your first comic, really.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was camp where I picked up my first comic. I think it was a Richie Rich or a Casper the Friendly Ghost. I also actually read the Bible in comic book form when I was at camp. I think my second or third year there.
Tell me about your parents and how they influenced you, the characteristics that you've really grown to develop from them.
I have my father's sense of humor, which is very abstract and esoteric. And I used to think that I learned it from him until my own son started saying jokes that only I understood when he was 3 and 4. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's something in the blood here going on, you know? I learned from him kind of, he very much, he never finished school. And so he always pushed me. But he also kind of, saw that I needed attention and to do stuff. And instead of kind of leaving me on my own, he would give me projects to do, which I still remember. Like, he wanted to have birds in a cage at home. And so I had to research the birds. And I made this into a big production, which was not needed. But I'd rather, good thing I was doing that instead of being out in the streets, My mom went to college in Beirut, studied philosophy, and I think, my dad would probably argue, the reason I get in trouble is because she was still teaching philosophy when she was pregnant with me, and, so all these ideas infiltrated my mind. But I'd say probably the student, and she actually was a philosophy teacher. So I guess my academic yearnings come from my mom's side, and from my dad's side, my dad started, a few times, went into business, didn't work out, went in again, didn't work out, but, always was resilient. And so I think I picked that up from him.
But you had a happy childhood.
Yeah, I had a very comfortable childhood. A very privileged childhood. But I also was, I was also the person that at school when, we read Lord of the Flies, immediately got tagged as Piggy. So, but it was a very safe, even though I grew up in the middle of the Iran-Iraq War and all this stuff, it was a very comfortable childhood.
And you had the benefit of East and West, experiencing both life in the Middle East and in America, for example.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, growing up in Kuwait, taking what I hope is the best of there, coming to the U.S. And it was difficult in the beginning because it's not like you grow up bicultural to begin with. You have to kind of find yourself in there and realize at some point it's okay that these parts of being what people see as Kuwaiti that you want to let go of. And these things of what it is to be Western you want to take in and to create your own being without needing to be judged by others. And I think, once you can kind of pass that line, you can start contributing more to the world instead of really being self-focused and feeling guilty about why am I not doing this that way and that this way, and there must be something wrong with me.
Now, I know you have a strong spiritual faith. Religion is important to you. You're not pedantic about it, of course. You don't push it on people. But as you were growing up, what sort of role did it play in your life?
I was pretty much ready to give it up in college. I grew up in a Kuwait where religion was black or white, and the only thing black or white about me is my beard. I can't exist in the black or white world, and things didn't make sense for me. The idea of this is the way it is because it's the way it is not for people like me. And so when it was presented that way, I was ready to walk away. Remember, I was 19 years old at college at Tufts in the States. And what turned me around and put me on the course that I'm on now with the 99, just a very pivotal moment in my life, was an imam there, Imam Talal Eid. I don't even know why I showed up to this sermon. I typically skip them. But he was doing his PhD at Harvard in theology, and he said something that just changed my life. He said, if you were to ask me if usury was haram, having interest on your money is haram, I would tell you yes, and I'd quote you chapter and verse. And then he said, but if I didn't pay interest on a loan to get my car, I couldn't be here to talk to you today. And I saw the gray area. It really opened up my eyes, and I said, okay, this is good. I can live here. I can be faithful. I can, and not have to judge myself by other people's standards. And that was a very, very important turning point in my life.
And also, you had a close family, extended family, and you were close. It was that kind of a lot of influence from outside, your mother and father as well.
I grew up basically 3 or 4 times a week would be lunch or dinner with family, an extended family, and you were always able to find a mentor within kind of your system. It was a very, very important part of and even today. When I had the idea for the 99, the people I turned to in the beginning were people who were close to me, who grew up with me, who knew me. Who either went to school with me or so. The family takes a different meaning as you grow up. It involves kind of who thinks like you or who was in the same place as you.
Well, Naif, I have more questions. We're going to take a short break here. More with Naif al-Mutawa in just a moment. Don't go away.